Hello everyone, welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. I am Captain Logan, and joining me this evening, as always, is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez. Greetings, DJ. How are you, sir?
Greetings. I'm fantastic.
He's doing so great, he's fumbling over his F's.
Just wanted to hold it out there.
DJ, it's good to see you. I didn't get to have you on the show last week. Something came up with you, and we had Connor on, and Connor did a great job. But nobody can replace DJ Martinez.
Oh, Connor's great. I'm glad he got to do it. But I missed you guys, so I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. So tonight, we're going to do another Ask Me Anything show. We haven't done a specific topic in a while, DJ. Maybe we should come up with something for next week. We've been doing a lot of Ask Me Anything shows, but I knew that today was kind of a big DC news day, and I'm already seeing a ton of questions in the comments about all kinds of things. So I'm glad that I didn't theme it tonight, because it seems like everybody came with something they wanted to talk about. This show, as I always say, has my name in the title, but it is your show, you guys. I just show up, and you guys run everything. This makes me the biggest fraud on YouTube, man. This is the one show that I do no planning for whatsoever, and yet has managed to make sense to do weekly somehow. I still can't get my mind around it, but I love doing it. You guys are wonderful. Anyway, so Ask Me Anything show tonight, whatever you guys want to chat about. If you want to make sure that your questions or topics or comments are addressed on air, you can always leave a super chat, but don't feel the need to do that. We will answer as many of the pre-written questions as humanly possible, but that is an option for you, and that helps us keep this train chugging along. And so we, of course, cannot say enough nice things to everybody who has or will ever do that, and also thanks to our patrons for supporting us that way as well. And we've also got a goal this evening, $60 goal, so I am not doing an after show tonight. At the moment, the plan is to do Captain Logan late night twice a month. I think you can't have too much of a good thing, and I don't want to get burnt out on that show, and I want to make sure that I keep it fresh and fun every time. So right now, the plan is twice a month after doing the show from last week, not because the turnout wasn't fantastic, because it was. We had a good number of people live. We had a lot of folks that watched it after the fact. DJ, I think, unless people watched it twice, every single patron watched that show. So I gotta say, thanks so much to you guys for checking that out. It was just a pilot, so the second episode could absolutely bomb. It could absolutely tank. Who knows? But you guys were great for checking it out, and I really appreciate it. I had so much fun doing that show. If there is a ton of interest in doing it more often, I will do that. But I thought I would try something new tonight. We haven't done a goal in a while, and I thought it would be cool, since I have the time afterwards, instead of doing an after show, to just give you guys the option to keep this show going longer. So if you guys would like to just hang out with me longer than normal, I will go to 9 o'clock Central Time tonight if we hit our $60 goal by 8 o'clock. That is my plan right now, and DJ may not be able to make it that long. He can duck out whenever he needs to. That's totally up to you, DJ, whatever, but I will stick around until 9 o'clock if we hit that goal by 8 o'clock. And if this goes well and people really like this, this may be a goal that we do more frequently every so often when I'm not doing the after show. So anyway, that's all the news that's fit to print channel-wise, and I'm sure other stuff will come up as we go along. But let's go ahead and just get rolling with it, DJ. Where do you want to start, man?
Well, it's up to you. We've got two super chats, or we can start with pre-written.
Let's go ahead and start with the pre-written.
All right. Kellen O'Rourke, first one I saw, says, what are you guys' favorite Christmas episodes from various TV shows?
I feel like we answered this really recently.
I think we did Thanksgiving last time I was here.
Yeah, so this comes up every year, and I never have a really great answer for it. I've always liked Lexmas OK from Smallville. It's kind of silly, but then I like that episode doesn't end on a big high note for Lex. Like, Clark's got kind of your standard, like, true meaning of Christmas sort of plot where he talks a Santa off a roof that is considering committing suicide, which is great. It's a great situation. I remember that. I like that a lot. And then Lex goes through his own version of A Christmas Carol, but it ends in kind of a perverse, twisted way where he ends up heading more on the path to being the bad Lex by the end of the Christmas episode. I always thought that was really great. People always made fun of that title, and then, I don't know, over the years, I've come to love that title even more. More and more, but I don't know, my favorite Christmas episode of anything is probably Christmas with the Joker in Batman Animated Series. It's wonderful. The It's a Wonderful Life thing at the end always stuck with me, where Batman sits down with Robin to watch that for the first time. And I've always had theories about what he might have taken from watching that, because he says, it's not going to be relentlessly cheery, is it? And it's not really, right? Like, that is such a poignant film. And yeah, I mean, it ends on a major high note, and it's, I don't know, a feel-good movie in its way by the end, but there's a lot of emotional roller coaster as you're going through that. And I feel like Batman of all people would appreciate that story. So yeah, I don't know, I love that for the ending, but also the Joker stuff, and that's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, and the Smallville one's cool because it actually has consequence, not just like a throwaway episode, like you said.
Yeah.
My favorite show is The Office, so I always watch the Christmas Office episodes every year. And then Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they never did a Christmas episode, but they did like a separate Christmas special that was like longer than an episode, and they could get away with more stuff. They just released it like on DVD, so it had like more violence and language they couldn't usually say on the
That's
on the
really
show.
funny, and as a Christmas thing, that's kind of great.
Yeah, it was pretty gruesome, but yeah, I love that. I watch those every year. I don't really have a lot of TV that I watch every year. I watch a lot of Christmas movies though.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of rusty and having a hard time coming up with a bunch of stuff just because I don't go back to a ton of stuff like I used to. Like, I know Eric has a few things with different holidays every year that he makes sure and sits down and watches, and, you know, different Halloween specials and Christmas specials. And I don't have that as much. I think I did that kind of thing more when I was younger. I mean, obviously, I try to watch one of the versions of A Christmas Carol every year. It's funny. I don't know if you're having this year, DJ. I feel like we just did Christmas, man. Like, every year I complain that time is moving forward too quickly, and it happens as you get older. I'm in my mid-30s now. I have 3 kids. I have a lot of responsibilities. The older you get, the more responsibilities you have. That tends to happen. But this year, even more than... And it's not even that it feels like the year was really short. It's just specifically Christmas. It's like, I remember everything I bought everyone last year for Christmas. Usually, I don't have that. Usually, I don't even remember what I got people last year. I'm having deja vu when I go to the mall, where I'm like, I just did this. And so I bring that up to say that every Christmas thing that is going to come up on the show, I'm going to be like, I feel like I just answered this question.
No, I'm definitely have that too. It definitely sneaked up on me this year because it feels like we just gave each other those Power Ranger Christmas gifts that we gave each other last year.
Yeah. Do I have to pick something this year that's not Power Rangers related?
I don't know. We're not doing any Power Rangers content right now. So
not at the moment.
It's much more relevant last year.
Well, it's kind of where you and I start with each other.
Yeah. Well, actually, we start with the Bates Motel review of season 5.
Well, I know.
Want to go find that.
But it's.
Did Bates Motel do a Christmas episode? I feel like they must have.
I don't think so. I mean, that's not the sort of show, because it's, you know, not just because it's violent and you know, horrifying, but like that's not the kind of show that does a lot of one-off episodes, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, it might have just happened at Christmas. I'm sure there was like
there was probably something. I just can't remember. That's the other thing too, is like when you think about Christmas specials and episodic Christmas episodes, there's stuff, but you very often have to go back 20 or 30 years, back when television was more episodic, because we're mostly serialized now, where it's like, well, yeah, there's probably an episode or two that happened at Christmas, but it's like trying to remember the chapter where a specific thing happens in a novel.
Yeah.
All right, what else you want to talk about?
All right, we have a
folks
super
watching.
chat. First super chat was from John Ty.
Thanks, man.
He says, "Have you read the Batman Who Laughs miniseries?"
I have. I talked about it on Batmosphere on, I think, the first episode. I've not reviewed it, but we in the Bat Life segment, I had just read that, and I talked about it for about 4 or 5 minutes. So you can go to the beginning of that show. That's the the one where we focused on Alfred, because of course on Batmosphere, the very first character we picked, we tried to make it like a really heavy hitting, super popular, everybody's going to watch this character. So we picked Alfred Pennyworth because the Pennyworth TV show was on, and we reviewed the first couple episodes of that. And then the second episode, we did Batwoman. And finally, we've done the Joker. Our third episode is finally like a major character you thought we may have come out of the gate with. But anyway, so yeah, I talk about it there. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really provocative watching our Batman start to transform into the Batman Who Laughs. And I really enjoyed the comic book hokiness, as dark and heavy as that book sometimes is, of I talked about this in Batmosphere, but of getting the technology explanation of what the spikes around the Batman Who Laughs head are, because it's a visor he looks through, like Jordy's visor in TNG. Like it's actually like a thing that gives him information, but it just makes him look like he must be blind. I think that's absolutely hilarious, and our Batman has to make one, and it's great. But Snyder has some of the best cliffhangers I've read in comics in a long time in that miniseries. Like, every issue, I just could not stop myself from reading the next. I mean, I think I read all of that in one sitting, which is unlike me for a 7-issue miniseries, because I'm so busy. But I spent, and it's a fast read, too. Like, I don't think that took me more than an hour and a half to read, but, like, I just blew through it, because every cliffhanger was like, oh my god, I gotta know. So yeah, I definitely would recommend that book to Batman fans, and it's I don't think you absolutely have to have read the Batman Who Laughs one-shot from Metal or read Metal, and I've never actually finished Metal. I need to go back and do that, as if I haven't reviewed Metal. I'm so behind on new comics and talking about, recent major arcs and things. I've got to get back to that stuff. Been trying to focus on requests lately. But anyway, so but I think it's pretty readable, even if you don't know anything about the Batman Who Laughs. But I would, if you can get your hands on it, start with the one-shot that gives his background, because then you'll appreciate what's happening with our Bruce Wayne a lot more. Okay, what else?
All right. Malik Myers Reborn. Thoughts
Hi, Malik.
On the Wonder Woman 1984 trailer?
It looks spectacular. I only got a chance to look at it once, and I don't have a lot of insights and things to talk about with, like, Cheetah and things. But all I'll say is it looks real stylish, and it looks like more of what we got with the first movie, as far as, like, it looks like a film with heart. It looks like Wonder Woman's, of course, about all the same stuff. It looks really confident and bold, but it also looks tonally like a very different thing. And they're really steering into the 80s period. It's got a real psychedelic vibe with that trailer, kind of like Thor Ragnarok did, but, like, actually set in the 80s. And it's I'm hoping that it plays with that time period in the way I wanted Apocalypse to, because we had all kinds of fun with the 70s and Days of Future Past, and then we get to Apocalypse and it almost does not matter that it's the 80s. It's like, it's the 80s so that Storm can have a mohawk and no one will make fun of her. That's why it's the 80s. And that's about it. We didn't do anything with that. And this does not look like it's going to have that problem. But yeah, all I can say is I'm stoked. It looks very exciting. And it's probably in my top 2 or 3 of most anticipated movies next year. Wow. Everything is looking pretty good for the most part so far, though. I mean, I talked about this last week. It looks like next year is going to be the year of the spy thriller. If everything's good, it's going to be a big deal for spy thrillers. And Black Widow? Yeah. It was a movie that I didn't initially really care that much about, and I still wish that we had made it already. I think Marvel really should have gotten ahead of the curve on that. It's kind of ridiculous that they had the chance to get out ahead and do the first good female-led superhero movie before DC could make freaking Wonder Woman. I'm still gonna make fun of them for that forever. It's just, for PR stuff, if nothing else, like, this is not me preaching about representation or whatever, but if I'm the big corporation making those movies, I'm gonna get ahead of that on that, right? It's just the smart thing to do. But also, that's a character people liked, and Whedon had a lot of fun with her in Avengers and gave you kind of a sense of what she could be like in her own solo movie. And the Winter Soldier went even further, gave her some dimension. That was a character I wanted to see get her own movie, and I think it sucks that we waited until she died. Spoiler alert, she's dead. And going back to to Civil War, or right after Civil War, and finally giving her a movie. Like, I don't know, it's kind of too little too late. I mean, I say that like I'm gonna go and I'm excited about it. It just sucks. Like, it's gonna feel like, I know what it's gonna be like. It's gonna be like going to a movie that was made, 4 or 5 years ago and was just, or I guess 3 or 4, and just put in a can and somebody forgot to release it. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. We probably should put that out. Sort of like me with my novel, where it's like, I wrote that 3 years ago. I probably should have put it out by now, but it's not out yet. Imagine if you did that with a big blockbuster that people actually wanted to see. But that looks great. The 007 movie looks potentially great. We'll talk about Ghostbusters. I'm sure somebody's going to bring that up. I don't know what to say about Ghostbusters yet. I need to see more. But I think that also has potential. I will just say this. And I already knew this, like, we knew what the premise of that was. We knew that it was going to be passing off the Ghostbusters tech to kids, and it was going to kind of feel like Stranger Things. I didn't know it was going to feel as much like Stranger Things as that trailer does, but we'll see how much they're just steering into that for that trailer, and how much of a comedy it actually ends up being when we get more trailers and when we actually see the movie. But it looks like a movie that I think has every potential to be great and is just not really what I wanted, but I am very open-minded to being won over on it. Anyway, we can talk about that more if somebody wants to bring it up. What else should we chat about, Mr. DJ?
I want to read this comment from Rainbow Colored Warrior. He said, "It's almost been 8 months. Spoil away. Also, Vader is Luke's father. The Planet of the Apes is on Earth. Prospector is a villain, and Spock dies." I thought that was funny.
Bruce Willis is dead at the end of Sixth Sense.
Okay, this is a dangerous game. We probably shouldn't play.
Yeah, well, these are like, okay, well, I mean, he's doing it. Why can't I? It's my show. I won't, on principle, however, give away the end or the third act of Fight Club, because I managed to not get that spoiled for me even after like 10 plus years of that being out before I did the review on it, the rewind on it years ago. I know it's not a superhero movie, but I've done rewinds on some things that aren't superhero movies. It's not called Superhero Rewind at that point. That was a Rewind United, and I got really lucky and didn't have that spoiled for me, so I won't do that to anybody else, but I'll do it with everything else, but not that. Okay.
I got that spoiled for me because I watched a rewind.
Well, that's on you, pal. I've got a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode.
No, I totally trust you. Josh Gillis.
The following is an in-depth story analysis. If you haven't seen this film, you might want to before... Anyway, go ahead.
Josh Gulisano. He asks with a super chat, thoughts on South Park? Review 25 years of a television show. No, I don't watch South Park. I have watched South Park. That's one of those shows that tends to be too raunchy and gross and stuff for my sensibilities, but has a lot of great satire and sometimes says things that I think need to be said that nobody else has the guts to say, of things I've watched. Somebody years ago I requested the South Park movie for me to review, and I never got around to it. And I should probably finally do that. That was back when I was doing Rewind United, and I was doing review requests where people could buy my novel and then they could get a review request. And I did like half of them, and some of them I never got around to. And I feel really bad about it because like folks, bought this thing to get that. They also got other stuff, so it's not like they didn't get things. But there were a few reviews that I never got around to, and I lost the list and stuff happened. But anyway, there are a few things where I'm still like, that's not fair. I never got around to that, and I feel bad about it. I should mention here, if anybody happens to be watching this that had a request from years ago that you never got fulfilled, I still owe you that, and I need to do that. It's not right that I've not done that, and you are on my short list, sir. But anyway, that was a weird case where I watched the first half of it in a hotel room to do that review, and then I never managed to finish it. I think it came off Netflix or something. And anyway, I'm not making excuses. I'm a jerk, and I never got around to finishing those. And I need to do that. So anyway, but I just brought that up to say, I thought there was some really excellent satire in that movie, particularly about parenting and the public education system and the way we treat children and the way we kind of talk down to kids and stuff. And I don't know. I think
my sensibilities have kind of changed a little bit over the years, and maybe I would appreciate that show now in a way I didn't used to, and it wouldn't gross me out as hard as it once did. Maybe I could bring myself to watch some of that now. I'm getting through the Harley Quinn show, and so that I don't think there's anything in South Park that's very much grosser or rougher than stuff they do, in the Harley Quinn show.
Well,
oh my god, that show! Yeah.
Mutale did a little social commentary on your growth on the channel. He said, old Cap maybe, but not new Cap. He would like South Park.
When you said growth for a minute, I was like, are we talking about my weight again? Is that...
No, you look dashing, Cap.
Oh, thanks, man.
As the commenters have said in the
Mutale says Cap can't play South Park Stick of Truth. They did that superhero parody that I heard good things about that I never got around to a couple years ago. Yeah.
5 just asked thoughts, since you were already talking about it, he says thoughts on episode 2 of Harley Quinn, Cap.
I liked it a lot better than the pilot. I thought it was really funny. Again, it's not my thing. It's not my sensibilities, but I laughed a lot more, and I think it has one of the greatest Banes of all time. Its Bane is so funny, and I laugh every time he's on screen. It doesn't matter what he's doing. He's hilarious. And he's basically like this is my main takeaway of that, is that I want them to spin off their Bane into his own show, because he's basically this really insecure, emasculated Bane, but he is still, like, really, really buff and ripped and looks terrifying, and he even, in the episode, does the Venom thing and gets all big and bulked up, but everything makes him cry, and or makes him sad, and it's really easy to, like, push his buttons, and he doesn't attack you if you push his buttons. He just sulks off in a corner, and he has the Rice's Bane voice. But, like, the best parodies of the Rice's Bane voice, it's not modulated at all. It's just a guy going, I'm Bane. And it's like, I don't even doing that for years, and it's low-hanging fruit, but it's still funny. I loved Bane in that. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And there were several other villains that were pretty fun, too. And I like that show is willing to do actual comic references that only people who read comics will get, and recent comics. They have a whole subplot in that with Poison Ivy and Kite Man, and they have and they're making fun of what Tom King did with Kite Man in his Batman run, and every time Kite Man is on screen, they find an excuse to have him say hell yeah, because he won't stop saying that in Tom King's run, like, over and over, because everybody's got, like, their catchphrase in Tom King's run, and he starts to kind of use that as a crutch with things. So, like, the Catwoman will not stop saying meow, and he will not stop saying hell yeah, and they have him do it in that, and that blew my mind. I was like, because a lot of people that watch that will not appreciate that joke. They won't get it. And he'll keep saying, they'll be like, oh, is this like Kite Man's catchphrase? Yes, it is! From only a couple of years ago. That's pretty great. But yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed it. Brandon and I have been watching it together. And I think I'm enjoying it more because Brandon likes raunchy cartoon stuff. And it's kind of easier to enjoy it from, his lens, watching it with him. But
sorry,
yeah.
It's raining.
And
it's
I think... I was wondering what was going on behind you. I was like, is there a cat back there?
It's apparently raining really hard here. I didn't know that.
I also want to mention that the next episode of Batmosphere, which we're going to do sooner than normal because we were late on the last one, that's going to come out in a couple weeks. And if all goes according to plan anyway. And Dan's and I are going to do a Harley Quinn follow-up to Joker. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Harley Quinn show there, too, because he hasn't seen it yet. And so we'll get some more discussion about that at that point. Go ahead, DJ.
All right. Back to Super Chats. Dania Diaz says, thoughts on Doomsday Clock?
I need to finish Doomsday Clock. I read the first about half of it, and it's been a while, and a lot of it didn't stick with me. I was put off by things in that. I like the art a lot. I think that there are places where Jeff Johns has a really good handle on the Watchmen universe. There are other places where I don't think he does. And I thought that his ideas for what to do with a Watchmen sequel were interesting. I don't think overall they're better than what HBO has done with a Watchmen sequel, but then again, they're two different things because this takes place just a few years after as opposed to in present day, if memory serves. And I think the second Rorschach is kind of fun and an interesting choice to make him who he is. I don't want to give anything away for people that haven't read that, but I just could not get excited about the multiverse thing with that and merging Watchmen with regular DC continuity, partly because it felt like an Elseworlds thing even on the DC side. When we go to DC in that, it feels like DC a la Watchmen, which is not how you do that if the whole point of it was to put those two worlds together, and if part of the whole novelty of Rebirth, which we've not continued with and we kind of abandoned this idea, was supposed to be bringing in the Watchmen characters and making that all canonical. And I know a lot of people didn't like that. They got backlash. That might be part of the reason we're not doing it. I suspect the bigger reason is because that book was so late that they didn't want to start integrating stuff before you got the ending of that, because that has happened in other events too, especially on Marvel's side, but never that late. You know, that book was like a year late or something. And so, anyway, it had weird status quo stuff, and its DC characters felt a little bit more cynical than they usually are. And I was like, if you're just gonna make a Watchmen sequel, if that's all you really wanted to do, then just make a Watchmen sequel. I mean, I didn't necessarily want that either, but that was the stuff that I was more interested in than the Universal crossover stuff. And all of that. So anyway, but there's some broad thoughts on Doomsday Clock. I will review that at some point because I would like to finish it just for the sake of, completion.
Cool. I will say real quick, since we're talking Watchmen, I'm so behind on the show and I'm really upset about it. I need to catch up. I think I've only seen 3 episodes.
Make sure you do it as soon as you can so that nobody spoils anything, because there have been some massive developments with that. And episode 8 is fascinating. And 7 is also fast, and there's things I want to tell you about, and I can't. So do that when you get a chance. I fell behind on it too for a little while, and then I binged up through 5, and then I've been current with it since then. I binged up through 4, and I've been current since then. And this next Sunday is the last episode of the season.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna try to catch up a lot tomorrow. I've been watching. I've started watching TV at work instead of YouTube.
Sure.
Switch that out.
Thing you can do, yeah. Although Watchmen needs your undivided attention, man.
I know, that's the thing.
I would not be putting that on in the background. I would carve out time, man. I would put that in my itinerary. I really want you on the panel for that, because we talked about the first episode, and that was a lot of fun. And when I say panel, it could just be me and you, but I'm trying really hard to get Dan Torrey on there too. He and I talk about Watchmen for like an hour every time it comes out, and it's all he ever wants to talk about. And so I'm really hoping I can get him on the spoiler cast, and it's just a matter of his schedule with law school and stuff. But with Christmas coming up, we may be able to do it soon. And just so everybody knows, because I've been doing a lot of solo spoiler cast lately, and if I need to do that way too, I will. But there's so much to unpack in that. I would really like some other folks to help me noodle it and to really do some good, in-depth story analysis. If we're able to. If it's just me on my own, I'm not going to promise a lot of great analysis, because that's going to be like 3 hours. And it might be 3 hours with other people, but it will be more interesting than if I was just by myself talking for 3 hours. But there's, like I said, there's just so much stuff to talk about with that that I want to rewatch all of it before I do a spoiler cast on it. So it's not going to be like Crisis. You're not going to see it the day after it airs, because I need to sit with it and get a whole second viewing. I watched the first episode twice and really, really wanted to watch each episode twice as they came out, and just have not had time to do that. So I would like to binge it, but luckily it's only 9 hours. So yeah.
Cool. All right, I'm going to jump over to Super Chats. And Ryder says, have you been following this? He says, what are Cap's thoughts on the hashtag release the Snyder Cut? some very big developments.
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of the big things that have happened where, I mean, you say big developments, like, I guess, like, Snyder took a picture of what is apparently the Snyder Cut, and, like, yes, we knew there was footage, and yes, of course, Snyder wants to see that released, and Warner's is never going to pay the money to finish the effects. I don't know why we're still talking about that, like, or at least I don't think they will, and if they get harassed enough and people, like, I don't want to ever say never, because nothing ever surprises me anymore, right? Like, it's really easy for me, you know, in my little bunker under my house to be like, I know for sure this will never happen, and then when it does, everybody's gonna blow up at me and be like, oh, Cap, you act like you're clairvoyant and you can see the future. Remember, Cap, even the clairvoyant wasn't clairvoyant. So I don't want to ever say that. That's an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reference. I don't want to like ever say never. Like, I guess it could happen. I don't see it happening anything like in the near future, because that would be Warner Brothers kind of going against their current strategy for their movies, right? They would be having to sell and advertise a thing that they're trying so desperately to get away from. And yes, it's a thing I want to see too, not because I think it's going to be great and so much better than the other movie, but just because I know it was another movie and I'm curious to know what exactly it was. But like, a lot of people that want it so badly are the crowd that still swears by BVS and liked the direction Snyder was going and wanted to see more of that, and are upset that that DC has gone a different direction, that the DCEU has kind of been blown apart, and that they don't have this cohesive continuity like they were trying to build before. And of course, I'm not in that camp, and I don't want to see it for that reason. I want to see it for historical reasons, and like, there are so many other movies that have this problem too. Maybe not to the degree that this does. This is kind of the motherlode of this now, where we know that was just a completely different movie. And so yeah, I mean, it's obviously a massive curiosity, and what we got, like when people freak out about how bad Justice League was, like, I still get this out in the wild when I'm just like talking to people out in public when well, and I don't mean to be prudish about it, but just folks that I don't talk to regularly, that find out what I do, or just engaging me about superhero movies. The times when I don't say, "Look, I'm not on the clock," where they'll go, "Man, I really hated that Justice League movie. That was so terrible." And I have to kind of remind people, yeah, but like, it's barely a movie. It was like it was a hodgepodge. It was a rush job. It was it was like a desperate attempt to get something out in time. That's what that is. So like yes, it's, if you just look at it as a piece, and you take it on its own terms, it's easy to go, well, yeah, that's a really horrible movie. And they should have done a better job making it. And then and of course, you don't want to take everything on its own terms. That movie doesn't have terms because it's made by a bunch of different people that are all doing different things, and then they cobble together a movie. So like, it's a different piece every other scene, and it's just it's not a full cohesive piece. And knowing that, like, it's kind of difficult to even watch that movie and have any sense of it. Of what you're looking at if you don't know a little bit about the production. What's up?
No, I was just gonna say, to that point, like, all the news that's coming out, like, did you hear that the cinematographer confirmed that only 10% of Zack Snyder's footage actually made it in the theatrical cut?
Wow.
That's crazy.
But that's the 10% that counts, right? Because if you hadn't had that, then Whedon could have made a completely different movie.
Yeah.
And he probably would have made, a half-decent film. So, like, he was probably stuck with a pivotal 10% that he couldn't change, enough to make it a more cohesive movie. That is a staggering statistic, though. I'm with you. That is wild. I was assuming 30 or 40. Even Donner got more than 10 in Superman 2. So yeah,
it's weird. What do you talk about all the cast like joining in, and like Aquaman? What's his name? I'm having a brain freeze. What is his name?
Yeah,
the guy who plays Aquaman.
Yeah, I know who. Jason.
Him like coming out and saying he's seen the film and it's awesome. Like that's so weird.
It is strange. I will say it's especially strange for actors that are still in their stable, that like their livelihood depends on Warner Brothers, who probably don't want. So here's my assumption. My assumption is that Snyder is not a great storyteller, but is a guy that is fun to work with, and everyone who works with him likes him. That's the sense I get. Yeah. That's the only explanation for that, right? Is that they're supporting him because they think he got a raw deal, and it doesn't matter what the product was that he made. They're supporting that guy. That's what I think is going on there. But I wonder why it took so long. It's weird. It's like the release of the Snyder Cut thing it felt like this like underground cult thing for a minute, where it was a bunch of like, it felt like a bunch of weirdos who were pretending like a thing existed that they didn't know existed, and then months later, the people responsible for it finally gave in and were like, yeah, those, like, why did it take Snyder that long to finally say something? That's the part of this I really don't get, is that like it has become a movement with Hollywood backing, but months after it was just a geekdom thing, and a lot of nerd culture was like making fun of, you know, all the people that were doing that. Why did it take that long?
I don't know, dude. It's so weird. I don't even like care to see the movie, but I just love keeping up with it because I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Just so weird.
Yeah.
All right.
But you know you're gonna watch it if it ever comes out.
I probably will. I've only seen the first Justice League one time in theaters. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, well, it's not like it's rewatchable or anything. Like, I enjoyed it more in the theater than I expected to, and then I watched it again, and I was like, oh wow, there really is nothing to this.
I actually just bought it on Black Friday for like $7.
That is one of those things that I think is pretty, yeah, and that's what you should have paid for it. But I think that's one of those things that is really hyperbolic to put in worst movies of all time, especially because it hardly even counts as a movie. I'm standing by that. It's an interesting curiosity. It's a failed attempt at making something, but it wasn't unwatchable either. But it is one of the least rewatchable things I have ever seen.
Well, that's great. I'm glad I just paid money for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you collect to a degree.
Yeah. I also got the 4K version, which I don't have many 4Ks, so I was interested in that.
I can't tell you the sheer number of things I bought because I have to have them that I've never watched.
That is true. And it's right behind you, and it looks great in the purple. I love your lighting, by the way.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Talked about that. I've only done this once with it. All right.
Tyler Parker. I guess that's true. See, I feel like I've been doing this with this lighting for months now. It's weird. Like, I've only been in this house for like 3 weeks, but I'm getting really used to the setup.
It looks great, man. I'm jealous. I need to get some lighting. Some fancy
thanks,
lighting.
Buddy. Well, I'll tell you how to do it. It's really easy.
Cool. We got Tyler Parker with a super chat. He says, when are you finally getting back to Telltale Batman?
He asked this a couple weeks ago. I just haven't had time. I'm gonna do it as soon as humanly possible. I'm sorry for the delay. This week, I've had to focus on the creative writing workshop, which meets on Friday. We do that once a month, and that eats up a lot of my time because I have 5 stories that I have to read twice and take notes on, and I mean, I'm teaching a class with that, so I have to put on my teacher hat for a week and work on that, and then I'm trying to catch up on requests. And I mean, I haven't been able to get that rewind out this week that I had planned to get out this week because I've been working on stories and stuff. So hopefully soon. But also I didn't want to do it the same week that I did like 3 live streams, because last week I had Batmosphere, and I had this show, and I had the new Captain Logan After Dark, and it's just gonna be too many live streams. So I will try to do that as soon as humanly possible. Anyway, I don't want to promise particular time, but I'm shooting for very soon. Okay, what's next?
Webmaster47 says, when are you going to review, this is a super chat, when are you going to review Umbrella Academy?
Oh man, we still haven't gotten to that. DJ and I mean, I really want to do that with you when we do it. DJ's leaving. We'll see you later, buddy.
Bye. I'm done. No Umbrella Academy for me.
Oh, okay. Bye-bye. So I will do that by myself at some point. No, yeah, we just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm sorry about that, guys.
Sir.
There are.
Sorry about that.
And
My wife needed the charger.
That's why I have to be really careful not to like announce stuff that I can't get done real soon, because it makes me look unprofessional, and then people ask me about it for weeks on end, or months, or sometimes a year or more. But with TV, like I've been catching up on the Arrowverse stuff so that I can do Crisis, and Umbrella Academy is like the next thing on my list. So I'm gonna try to start watching that real soon. But yeah.
Definitely, like I said earlier, I'm gonna start watching stuff at work. That is something I can watch at work because I've already seen it once. So I could do a second watch through of that, and we could talk about it.
Well, why don't you go ahead and plan on just going ahead and doing that as soon as you've got a chance. Just make that the next thing you watch, and I will do that as well, and then we can reconvene and shoot that either after one of these shows or as one of these shows or something.
Oh, cool. Mutali says the showrunner for that show is doing Moon Knight, so that's cool.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
If that's what he's talking about. He might not be talking to us.
Neat.
All right. I'm going to jump to a pre-written.
Yeah.
Cinematographic wants to know what your thoughts are on the fixed redesign of Sonic for the new Sonic movie.
I think he looks fine. Of course, if that had been what we saw in the first place, I think very few people would have complained real hard. I think people still... It's funny, I think people like it more than they would have if they hadn't seen that other design. And some people have this wild conspiracy theory that this was the plan all along, and I don't buy that for a minute, but...
No, that's a lot of money and poor 3D modelers that had to work a lot of overtime to get that done.
Well, no, the conspiracy theory is they had that in their back pocket, that they actually had... They were never going to use the model that you saw in that first trailer. They made that trailer with that model on purpose so that they could like lower people's expectations of it and then get people excited when they knew there would be it was like a master manipulation plot, right? Like they knew that there was going to be an outcry, and then they were never planning on actually releasing it on the date they were going to. So when they set it back like 6 months, that was really the date they were going to put it. Yeah, I don't buy any of that at all. No. That was absolutely the director and the studio saying, you know what, we screwed up, and we know that if we don't change this, it's going to absolutely bomb at the box office. I think ultimately it actually is going to work in their favor. I think at this point that movie is likely to make more money than it would have if that fiasco had not happened, which is hilarious. I also think it's going too far to say, oh yay, they fixed it. Yeah, the design looks better, but it's going to be the same movie, and it looks like a thing that starts from a place of we don't actually really have a whole lot of reverence for this character and love that material. We just know that that's a thing with brand recognition that we can put in the same standard animated but in live action formula that we do with everything, and it still looks like really uncreative and uninspired to me as far as the basic cookie cutter plot that you could pretty well work out from just looking at the trailers. My assumption of what the plot probably is. I hope I'm surprised by it. Having said that, that second trailer, of course, is a much better trailer. And there's stuff in it that I actually kind of laughed at a little bit. I think Sonic playing baseball by with himself is fun. There's stuff in that I like. And...
Yeah, it's interesting that they didn't just like place him in the same trailer. They cut a different trailer. Like they're trying to...
Which was also really smart. But part of the reason they cut that trailer was they went, oh, wait, there are Sega fans? We didn't know that. And so... They make this trailer where they throw in the Green Hill Zone music, and they show you Green Hill Zone. I'm speculating that Green Hill Zone footage did not exist before, and that is going to be new to the cut that we'll see when it comes out in February. Also keep in mind that January-February movies usually aren't very good, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because this got put off for a different reason. Although if the studio had a lot of faith in it, they might have put it back even farther just so that they didn't look like they were putting it in the graveyard month. Because when, last year when Glass came out, Eric was like, there's no way this is good, it's in January. And I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And it was like one of the worst movies I've ever seen. There wasn't necessarily a correlation, but there probably was. Anyway, but I don't know that that's going to necessarily mean anything for Sonic. I think that if that first trailer had come out, or if that new trailer had come out first, I probably would have said it looks, just based on the trailer, I'm not talking about the actual movie I'm about to bring up after I saw it, because I was surprised by this. It looks about as good as Detective Pikachu looked to me when that first trailer dropped. And, it looks like a fun kids movie, but not necessarily a thing that, adults really need to see. And happily, it doesn't have a whole bunch of, it's not at least being advertised with a bunch of gross out humor and that kind of thing. But then Detective Pikachu ended up being surprisingly better than I thought it would be, and was again, was more of a kids movie than anything, but it was fun, and it had a lot of reference for that material. This is not going to have that, so that is the big difference, unless they really massively changed it. But they're stuck with the principal photography they're stuck with. So if you see any of Mobius and that kind of thing, you get the sense you might in that trailer. First of all, if there's any Sonic music in that at all, it will be only Emerald Hill, because that's what everyone knows, and there won't be anything else. I'll be really surprised, because they thought they were being clever by doing nods in the real world to Sonic stuff. They're doing that whole thing. They're kind of Mario Brothersing it up in that way. And so, Emerald Hill was the name of, a town or a street or something. You saw a sign. So now it's going to be weird, because you're going to have that also, but Emerald Hill is also a zone. They also showed that. So, anyway, I don't know. I'm not expecting much. My expectations are in the floor, which means they don't have to do very much at all to impress me.
Will you'd just be happy if they go back and CG Jim Carrey to look like Eggman the whole time, the whole movie?
Matalia says, Cap Glass, that would be insane. Well, they didn't, we saw the trailer, and strangely, this time they didn't show that footage at all of Jim Carrey looking more like Eggman at the end, which leads me to believe that everybody was right when they said that's probably an after credit scene, or just at the very, very end of the movie, because the reason they didn't show it to you again is they would have had to use the same footage. That's all they have, is my assumption. But Mutali says Glass came out this year. Yeah, I keep thinking it's already 2020. In fact, I was reading some articles today that were talking about 2021, and I was like, wow, that movie's coming out this fast? Oh wait, no, 2021 is not next year. But in my head, it is. It has been 2020 in my brain for about a couple months now. Anyway.
All right, we got a big super chat here from Andrew Follett. He says, I am a film major. Yeah, I'm a film major, and my professor loved my midterm paper. Had it analyzed in class. Your work inspires my writing, and my final paper this semester is on film narrative in Batman Begins. Thanks.
Oh, man. Well, what a nice thing to say. I'm glad if I could help you out in any way at all. And I'm glad I didn't steer you wrong. I'm glad you were so you inspired my writing and my way of looking at film, and I got a D. So I'm not watching you anymore. I just wanted to give you a super chat to tell you that you ruined my college career, and I'm never coming back. No,
if that did happen, please write that, because that would be great.
Yeah, actually, I would like to know about that. That would be great. Maybe your paper sucked. That's not on me. No, I'm just kidding. I never know what to say to that. Thanks a bunch for letting me know about that, and I'm glad that it went well. And I would love to read it. If you ever want to send it to me, I would be very interested to see what your thoughts are on that film. In your winning paper. What else we got?
All right. Yeah, send it here. P.O. Box 123.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Let me mention the P.O. Box in the fact that I don't have one right now. So I mentioned this in the update video, but in case you didn't see it, I am taking packages again, but I'm not doing a P.O. Box, at least right now. If I find out that more, because people keep asking me about it, and people keep wanting to send me stuff, but since I made the announcement, I haven't had anybody ask for an address yet, so I'm wondering if people just aren't going to do that and will only send to a P.O. Box. I really don't want to do the P.O. Box thing. I hate dealing with the post office. It's irritating. But if at the moment, if you want to send me something, send me an email. My email is in the About page on YouTube, or you can send me a personal message on Facebook or on Patreon. So Geekvolution on Facebook, patreon.com/Geekvolution if you're a patron, because I don't think you can send a personal message unless you're actually a patron. But anyway, those are all three. Excuse me. Those are all three things that you can do, ways that you can get a hold of me, and I will send you an address if there's something that you would like to send my way for Mailbag Day. I'm gonna bring back Mailbag Day. Is my whole plan. Oh, Andrew says that his midterm paper is on something else, but he's talking about a different paper for Batman Begins. But yes, but I would still be curious to look at it if you would like to show it to me. Anyway, what else we got?
All right. Just to update, we're at 39. Oh, just got another one. 8. We're at about $47 right now. So not to the goal quite yet, but we got 7 minutes left.
$13 away, 7 minutes to do it. So if you guys want to keep hanging out a little while.
$10.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Well, that gets us
question.
really close.
Did you mean to write a question, or was that just a gift? I don't know. No question, Jeffrey. But thank you.
Well, we won't question that either. But Jeffrey, thanks so much for getting us closer to the goal. And if there is something you want to chat with us about, just put it in there, and DJ will do his job and notice it, and then we'll chat about it.
He says
thanks, Jeffrey. That's so nice of you, man. Really appreciate it.
Good man. I talked to Jeffrey the other day. It was delightful.
Did you?
T-Edge1.
He's great.
Yeah, I just called him. T-Edge1, what are your thoughts on some channels referring to their content as safe for work instead of, I feel like I have to read this like I'm in a training video at my work. All right. What are your thoughts on some channels referring to their content as safe for work instead of family friendly because of COPPA?
Well,
also keep up the good.
Thanks. Really appreciate it. That's unfortunate. This is going to just change everything about this platform. And this is without a doubt all YouTube's fault, right? YouTube making a big deal just this last year out of how many kids are watching their platform, knowing full well that COPPA was an issue for them. And that was one of the things that really got them in hot water, and that made them have to pay that big giant $180 million fine. So they have, at the same time as they did that, they were also still saying, well, YouTube is only for people who are 13 years old and up, and you're supposed to be that old in order to have an account, and it's not our fault if any kids are watching, while at the same time boasting, hey, look at all the kids that are watching us. That was probably a mistake. They probably shouldn't have said that. And so it never occurred to anybody not to, of course, tout up videos being for kids and family-friendly content. Now we got to tiptoe around it and be really careful, and it hurts my feelings because I hate this platform legally having to turn into a thing that is more for adults, for teenagers and adults. And I have, again, never aimed my material at kids specifically. It was just always okay for anybody to watch. And I don't want to stop using that term. Like work friendly. That's not what I do either. You know. I mean, I guess it is. I guess my content, and I have had people send me messages and say that, where they're like, "Hey, I really appreciate the fact that you don't swear all the time, and that you're not crazy because I can watch you at work and you know nobody gets upset." I have kind of a nasally voice, so I would expect that some people, if you're not wearing headphones, would be like, God, turn that guy off. But anyway, but I don't know, I've always prided myself on the channel being a place where you don't have to send your kids out of the room, and I know that some families have watched us together, and the majority of our audience is absolutely teenagers and adults, and mostly adults. But there are people who watch it with their kid, who bring their kids in the room, and so I don't want to stop using that term. That sucks. I had not heard that yet. That's unfortunate. I get why people are saying that.
Cool. And that was your weekly COPPA Minute with Captain Logan. TH1. TH1. We have a lot of super chats, so I'm going to speed through these. What are your thoughts on some channels referring their DJ just read that.
Yeah, I was going to say. I thought we just did this one.
I'm sorry, I'm a moron. David Crabtree.
Don't have as many super chats as we thought.
Gives us a super chat. He says, just got home, wanted to say hello. Really been digging the purple lightning in the bunker. Yeah, man, we just talked about that earlier. I'm also digging it.
I think it was it David or was it somebody else? I haven't done this yet. Who left a question for a Captain Logan After Dark and was like, "Is purple now the official color of Geekvolution?" And yes, it absolutely is, because it's my favorite color, and it looked really good in the logo. And I want to say, DJ, that my affinity for purple is the reason you did that in the first place, or was that just a happy accident?
I don't remember.
It hasn't been that long since we went to this whole scheme.
I knew it was Dan's favorite color. I don't know if I knew it was your favorite color.
Well, that's great. Just the stars aligned on that.
That's awesome. No, I'm sorry. If you guys don't like purple, it's my fault. Everything on the channel is purple now, so...
Yeah, what if there's anybody that just is nauseated by purple and they're like, well, I just listen now. I just pretend like it's a podcast because I cannot deal with all the purple lighting. It's awful. And, I hadn't this was also kind of a happy accident. Like, I hadn't intended on making all the light purple, and I've got different lamps behind me, and like for accent lighting. And so there's different corners of the room that have the purple lighting. And I was going to do different colors, and the first time I put this on camera behind me like this, I was like, that looks really good. And so I've just kept it. And with these smart lights, I can make it any color I want to. When I bring back Counting Cryptofreaks, I'm considering doing that on camera, and I'm gonna go with green lighting when I do that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the purple fits this room really well, and it goes with everything we have on the channel right now. And it's not just like the purple wall either, like the main big logo that we have. That's all purple. Yeah. So anyway,
don't worry, guys. For you purple haters out there, I'm working on a top secret project with Cap right now, and it is not purple. So there'll be a lot of thumbnails coming up, and they won't be purple.
And then, of course, I had purple hair.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that was after we had this new logo scheme, but I probably won't do that again. Because
that was also my fault.
That was
I don't know if we've ever talked about this story, but Cap was trying to think I'm going to tell it now. Cap was trying to think of goals, and he was trying to think of, like, serious things that people would want to see on the channel. And I was like, let's just do something crazy, like dye your hair a crazy color or something. I don't think I said purple. I think that was your choice, but I did say we could dye our hair. And then I ended up not doing it, but he did it. So
I sure did.
That's how it works.
I still have a little bleach at the top of my hair right now from that. It still hasn't all come out yet.
It looks just like nice shiny highlights. So
thanks, man.
All right, we have blown past the goal. I have not been giving updates. We were at 57, and then we got 5, 7, and another 5. So yeah, we are past 60.
Well, you guys are amazing. Thanks so much. So I will certainly continue to broadcast for the next hour. And DJ, you feel free to stick around for just as long as you have the time to. What do you got next, man?
I got another super chat from Hey Cap. Sorry.
Hi there.
Say it was from. Let me drum roll into it and then skip his name. That's great. I am on fire tonight, guys. I've been off a week. Connor, I'm gonna need you to come back because I'm failing tonight.
It's harder than it looks, you guys.
Mr. Weeping Dalek is who it's from.
I feel really self-indulgent the last 10 minutes just talking about like my hair and purple, and I'm hoping this is less about me. Go ahead.
All right. He says, "Hey Cap, love the channel. You think the MCU releasing 4 films a year plus the Disney Plus shows could start superhero fatigue?" I know Dan Torrey was
yeah. I don't think it starts it. I think it could make it worse. I think there certainly is already superhero fatigue from a lot of people, but not enough that it's hurting the market, right? The question is, when does it start actually affecting the numbers? When can they put out so much content that people don't feel like these are the big tentpole, cultural events that everyone is supposed to go to. And obviously not every single movie has quite accomplished that, where like everybody feels like, oh, this is a big event, and if I don't see this, I'm missing something. Because again, this is the example I always go to. Ant-Man doesn't do big numbers, but still good enough to keep making them. And a third one of those has already been announced. So 4 does sound like a lot. I mean, I don't disagree with you. Disney Plus is only going to affect it if those movies are difficult to see without watching those shows. I think and I don't know how big this contention is either. I mean, it's frustrating because it's really difficult for Disney to screw themselves to the point where they have to cancel things because they own so much right now. I read an article the other day that said that they had a record, like, what was it, $4 billion year? $3 or $4 billion year in movies last year. And when you're making that kind of money, plus this year, because it's not 2020 yet. This year, they had a record like several $billion year. The same year they launched Disney Plus, which had to have also raked in another like hundreds of $1 million, I would assume. So what do they have to do that's gonna hurt them to the point where they start really backing stuff off? I mean, this has obviously happened a little bit with Star Wars, but Marvel is. I think The Mandalorian is going to help that a lot, but with Marvel, they have a bunch of different properties that are continuing to generate a lot of income by themselves, and Star Wars didn't have that. They didn't have different pockets, right? Where like, well, we can kind of take a little bit of a loss on this one, and Marvel's never had to take a loss on any of their movies, as far as I know. But like, we can take a little bit of a loss on this one because this other one is doing really good. Star Wars doesn't have that the way Marvel does, where they have several franchises that are all in the same universe. DJ, what has to happen with Marvel before they have to start backing off projects? Because I think it's just, if you don't see the Disney Plus shows, you can't understand these movies. I think that would be a problem, but even then, how big is that contingent? The contingent of people that won't be keeping up with the Disney Plus shows.
Well, there's so many people that didn't watch a lot of the Marvel movies and just watched the Avengers movies. Like, you hear about that all the time. The people that didn't watch the Thor, and they didn't seem to have any problems with it. So, like,
yeah,
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea, because the general public is so different than our little small group. Because like, I was in Half Price Books talking about like, and they were talking about how they were rewatching all the Marvel movies when Infinity War was coming out, and like they were talking about how they just had never seen a lot of them. I was like, how do you know what's going on? It's so, I don't know. It's a different world.
It is. It's a big question mark for me. Like, it's difficult to say when you do keep up with all of this what a person needs to see to enjoy a thing, as opposed to fully understanding what they're watching. I think it's easy for a person in the general public to only watch the ones they watch, the ones they like, and go into a movie and you or I go, well, you can't possibly get what's going on in this scene. But they think they get it enough because they're not even necessarily there as much for obviously the intercontinuity stuff, but also story as much as action, right? Like, as long as there's enough stuff blowing up and jokes for people, I think I mean, that might sound cynical, but I think a lot of people aren't even going to realize they're missing anything. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, ignorance is bliss with that kind of thing. Like, if you don't even know, especially now that the main team is all gone, like except for Thor and Hulk. I don't know if Hulk's gone or not. Is Hulk gone? You think he'll be in Thor 4?
I don't know the answer to that.
But I mean, Captain America's gone, Iron Man's gone, and Black Widow's gone. Hawkeye's, well, I mean, he's going to be in the show, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I doubt Doctor Strange is going to be that hard to keep up with. I don't know.
So yeah, I don't know what would have to happen before they decided they needed to back stuff off. Because I would have thought it would have happened by now, and it hasn't. So, but I still say it's hard to know how much interest people retain post Endgame. Overall, it's hard to know that. But as we're moving forward and looking at how well Far From Home did, which I still maintain was riding the coattails of Endgame a little bit, and it being, taking place immediately after that, and being kind of an epilogue movie. A lot of people still felt the need to go to that because it was connected to that. I'm starting to turn around on this a little bit and say, nah, these movies are still going to make a lot of money. People are still going to go. And quality still, or at least assumed quality, still matters. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have the same reservations I did about Black Widow and wish that it was coming out earlier, but I saw that trailer. It looked great. I kind of want to go. And I think the majority of people are going to have that. Is that a $1 billion movie? Probably not. It'll do at least 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, I think fatigue is less the problem now, and just trying to get people excited again, since they've kind of ended their saga. Like, they've got to get people excited about all these new things, and I think that's more the problem than fatigue at this point, because it's going to feel so different.
And then the question is, how many people are going, and again, I'm just asking questions because I'm not sure I fully get the psychology of this, and I think a lot of people are splintered. I think there's a lot of different camps that are going to these things for different reasons. And the big two are, I'm genuinely excited to go to every one of these because of all the world building, and I love this universe, and I want to go see all of it, and I'm invested. And then the other end of it is, I feel obligated. I feel like I'm supposed to go, and so I go. And the question is, how many people have that, and what does it take to lose them?
I don't know. I mean, it's a staple of like pop culture right now. You kind of have to know what's going on with the Marvel movies. Or a lot of people think they do. So I think you're onto something there. This kind of ties into that. And I'm going to pass this over to you, and then I'm going to take a break real quick, and then I'll let you know if I can stay for the second hour or whatever.
No problem.
However long. So Hawk Flame gives us a super chat. $4.99. If MCU is going in the multiverse direction, what universes do you want to see? I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, so I'll see you in a bit, man. So first of all, I don't know that I'm as excited about the whole multiverse thing with Marvel as I want to be. I think some of that is that CW was smart to do a big giant multiverse thing this year. And when I say they're smart, obviously that was kind of a happy accident. They didn't know that next year Doctor Strange was going to have a movie with the word multiverse in it. But as much as that has been an absolute mixed bag, and so I'm not saying that it's the best thing ever and that it's as good as it could be. And there's a lot of continuities and people, characters not represented there that I wish they could have gotten on board. But the multiverse thing is not as exciting to me, I guess, I'm finding, when you're not bringing in stuff that already exists. Like, it's been a lot of fun with all of this pre-existing DC stuff, that's all a big multiverse now, with all these things that didn't have anything to do with each other, splintered, that are now all sort of in the same multiverse continuity. And with Marvel, you're not going to have that unless, and there have been rumors about this, and I don't know how much I trust it, we do actually do that with Fox's X-Men, and we keep X-Men in a pocket, Fox's X-Men. And even if we fully reboot, we could kind of do both. We could do a lot of really fun, different versions, like in the comics, of those characters. If we do that, I hope we get really imaginative with it. So I'm not saying that can't be really super fun. I'm not saying that I don't want to see different What If continuities. It would be really fun to do Marvel Zombies. I know that What If is doing Marvel Zombies, but it would be fun to see some version of that in live action. It would be fun to see 1602. It would be fun to see 2099. But having said that, you also already have the multiverse thing going on with Spider-Verse, and that was really good, and we were pretty imaginative with it. So I don't know. The multiverse thing, I get why a lot of people are burnt out on it. I got really burnt out on it in comics. Now it's coming to television and movies. Well, and I say now, CW's been doing it for years. It's just now that they've made a big giant event all about it with a bunch of different universes. And so they're going to have to work really hard to make me excited about that just on premise, because we've been doing so much of it, and we've been doing some of it pretty well. Okay, so I don't have a moderator right now. So I'm going to go back up and see if there are other super chats I missed, and I'll go back to pre-written when I get DJ back, and if DJ can't stay, I'll just have him send me those questions. Okay, so we just did Hawk Flames. Tyler Thompson, $2 super chat. What do you want in a solo Hulk film after Endgame? That's a really great question. I guess it would be really nice to do something a little bit more downbeat and character driven and like more Peter David inspired. It'd be really nice to do something like Grey Hulk. And I don't know if such a thing is even possible, not just because of rights issues and stuff, but also I just don't know if Marvel would do a thing like that, because they play it safe a lot with a lot of their movies. And so I don't want a Hulk movie that's a big giant action movie. I would love to actually really focus on Bruce Banner as a character, but more than we have before. Hey DJ, how you doing, man?
Hey, how'd it go? So you jumped up to the Hulk solo movie question?
I did, yeah. I managed to
Cool.
get a whole 2 questions done in the time you took a break, and for me, that's kind of impressive. I
That's
think you should be
nice.
impressed. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got one more super chat.
It's brevity for me, man. Okay, let's do
And
that, and then we'll go back to some pre-written.
yeah, we'll spend some time there. He
So,
says this
guys,
is
I am sticking around until 9 o'clock. Unless we have a bunch of super chats right then, I am going to call it quits right at 9 Central. And I want to thank everybody that threw in money into the pot for the goal. That is so cool of you guys. Really, really appreciate it. Again, I just want to stop for a second and mention that I, of course, do not take that for granted. You guys make it possible for me to put as much time and effort into this as I do. This is my full-time job, and the main way that we fund it is through contributions from you guys. So as always, as I always say, if you just watch, I really, really appreciate it. Don't feel like you have to do that, but the folks that do help allow it to be as much of my life as it is. Okay, DJ, what else do we have, sir?
all right. We have the super chat from Noah O that I just mentioned.
Yes.
He says, "Sorry if it already." Oh, and we just got another super chat. Sorry
Thank
if you already talked about this, but thoughts on Martin Scorsese's comments on the Marvel movies?
We've danced around it. Have we ever done just a whole segment on that?
I don't think so.
I don't know if we have. I think maybe a couple weeks after it happened, I finally had to weigh in on it a little bit. But yeah, I've been a little mixed on it. So I think Scorsese, like anyone, has the right to say anything he wants to say, and is obviously entitled to his opinion. Some people immediately freaked out and, in my opinion, jumped the gun and said that he was being a prude, and because he is a beloved filmmaker, he thinks he has the right to dog on somebody else's movies for not being the kind of art house masterpieces that he has made, and that there's room for everything. And I don't think he was saying that there's not room for everything. I don't think Scorsese was saying those movies shouldn't exist and no one should see them. He says they're not cinema. That's his definition of what cinema, and I think he means good cinema. It's also important, let me backtrack and say that this isn't a taking out of context thing, but it's not like the man sat down for an hour and calculated exactly what he was going to say about this. He was in an interview and he was speaking his mind in the moment. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to analyze what the guy was saying and to break it down and decide what you think about it. But you know, I do this now practically for a living, where somebody asks me a question and in the moment I froth at the mouth. And it's really easy to say stuff that you might later not necessarily walk back or take back, but just go, I could have phrased that better. I could have been more articulate. I could have made it clearer what I was talking about. I don't know if he was writing this down in a blog post or something. He would have said these movies are not cinema. He might have said they're not great cinema. And so, you know, I want to take him at his word, but at the same time, he's speaking his mind in the moment. I think it's important to remember that and consider that. And you know, in follow-ups, he might have phrased that a little bit differently. Now, he did somewhat double down on it, but I don't think he was being unfair or disingenuous necessarily. The thing that most people took him to task for, and I think this is also somewhat fair, I'm seeing both sides to this, is that he said he was lumping all of the Marvel movies together in saying that they're not cinema and that he doesn't watch them and that they're all you know, the same. And a lot of folks said, well, if you've not seen absolutely every one of them, you can't say that, because there might be one that you would have considered cinema, but you haven't seen it because you say you don't watch them. He said, I've tried. He said, and you don't know how many he saw when he said that. He said, I tried, I don't watch them. So what does that mean? Did he see Iron Man and he stopped? Did he see Winter Soldier and he stopped? Nobody knows. Now, I doubt very seriously that he would have made exactly that same statement if he did see Winter Soldier, but maybe that wouldn't have resonated with him in the same way it did with some of the rest of us. I don't agree with him when he says that that some of those movies are not cinema, but I have seen them all. They strike me differently. I have a comic book background. We all come from different places, and his standards are going to be are not going to be exactly the same as my standards. And so, you know, and different things are going to hit you differently.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a lot of truth to his statement. I also think that were it me, I probably, and again, you know, speaking your mind in the moment, if it were me and I could be calculated about it, I might not have made as blanket a statement as he did, having not seen more of them. So some folks on the other side that agree with Scorsese said, well, how many does he have to see? Well, to say they're not, yeah, kind of all of them, because you don't know, right? Because you don't know. There could be that one that was absolutely brilliant that if it had come out in a vacuum, you'd be like, okay, that's a wonderful film. I don't know what he would have thought of Black Panther. He might have thought that third act was too formulaic and typical, but he might have appreciated particular moments of writing and moments of acting in that movie. And again, I think he might have felt differently about Winter Soldier, but I don't know, and I don't know which ones he saw. So I mean, I see both sides of that.
Yeah, I think when he was saying they're not cinema, he didn't mean they're not movies. Like, he knows that they're movies. He wasn't talking about the definition of cinema. That's why I thought Robert Downey Jr.'s response was kind of dumb, because he was just like, well, they're released in cinemas. I was like, okay. But he knows he's not talking about that. When he was saying they're not cinema, it was because he compared them to theme park rides.
Yes.
And he was saying the reason that people see them is different than when you go to cinema, you go for this reason, and then when you go to the theme park rides, you go for this reason, which is true about a lot of blockbusters. It's not like...
And I don't think he would have said the same thing in the 80s when the blockbusters started to really take hold. His complaint is lack of variety, and that those kinds of movies are driving the industry now, so the sorts of movies that he makes can't be released wide in movie theaters anymore, which is an absolutely fair complaint and is a massive problem. And I mean, like, I love superhero movies, and I don't like that. That is a problem, and it is unfortunate that it's that you can't get a lot of movie theaters to carry smaller films, and by smaller, I don't even mean less high-profile movies. I mean movies that aren't blockbusters, that don't that didn't take $100 million to make, that everybody and his dog isn't going to see. Like, it's harder to get more niche things released, and it's and then you also have this kind of, I don't know, almost like mafia mentality with companies like Disney that are like forcing theaters to show their movies a certain number of times in a certain number of theaters, and that makes it impossible for them to show other things. That's a huge, massive problem, and he was being, I think, really, really calculated and smart by not bringing that up, but it was in the back of his mind. Talking about the Marvel movie specifically, because that's Disney.
Yeah, what kind of crazy world are we living in right now that, like, I mean, talk to 8-year-old Captain Logan and DJ and tell them that not only are superhero movies going to be a thing, but they're going to be the only thing that can get made.
Yeah.
And if it's not a superhero thing, it can't get made. What?
I wouldn't have started Rewind, probably. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. It's a topsy-turvy world. What we make now are superhero movies, and that's what we make. We live in the Demolition Man future, but instead of only Taco Bells, you have only superhero movies.
That's so weird. We couldn't even get them made before the 80s. Well, I mean, that was just Batman.
Yeah, it is insane to look at the sheer number of them that exist now and how few existed even before, let's say, 1999. I always talk about how X-Men is the big kickoff for all of this, right? So in 2 decades, we've made 95% of superhero movies. I bet I'm not too off on that just now made up on the spot statistic. I bet that's pretty close.
I mean, it's probably the same statistic as Snyder's involvement in the actual Justice League theatrical cut. So there's a couple super chats here that I missed before I left. I'm gonna go back to those.
I can't get my mind around that. That's amazing.
It's insane. And his movie is 3.5 hours long. His cut, he says. So, like, that's a lot of movie that we haven't seen.
David Crabtree says, only superhero movies and the 3 seashells. That's great. That's Demolition Man.
So Pandora gave us a super chat a while ago. He says, I really hope you eventually see and review The Boys and The Umbrella Academy. It's been nice to get great comic adaptations that aren't DC or Marvel. Which is cool. I agree with that.
Well, I'm finally starting to work my way through some things that I've been behind on. I wanted to kind of test the waters a little bit and see how much interest there would be in solo spoiler cast with me prattling on for half an hour, 45 minutes about these things, and they're doing well, and you guys are great for watching them, and I really appreciate everybody that looked at the CW show ones. So I will certainly keep trying to make some more of those when I have the time. DJ and I are absolutely going to do Umbrella Academy, and I still don't want to see The Boys. I don't want to. I'm not saying I won't. I don't want to. But I keep hearing mixed things, man, just back and forth, you know? For every person that tells me it's brilliant, another person tells me that it's awful and unwatchable and don't look at it. And
I've only heard great things.
I don't know how much of that depends on your sensibilities and how much of it is just, you know, some people cannot deal with raunchiness and, you know, rough and tumble and adult and profanity and stuff. And I gotta tell you, I'm really sick of everything being that right now.
Yeah. I don't actually, I mean, I've only heard great things, but I have no desire to see it. But it's not necessarily just because it's raunchy. It's because I don't like the concept. I don't like the idea that, like, oh, if superheroes were real, this is how terrible they would be. Like, that's so depressing. I don't want to see that. That's
Which is, yeah, but you're watching Watchmen, and you like Watchmen, and Watchmen does precisely that.
I don't know. For some reason, that feels like a world that's not just about. I guess it is just about showing you that, but for some reason, I watched the beginning of The Boys.
It's the world building.
I watched the first 10 minutes, and I was like, oh. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
A lot of it with Watchmen is the world building, and maybe, I mean, I was always won over by a lot of just the many philosophical notions that are being discussed there, and different points being batted around back and forth. And also, like, some of those characters are like actually likable. They're like, not everybody in that is reprehensible. Like, some of the characters that are killing people in superhero costumes still have a heart and a soul, and I don't know if that's true of The Boys because I've not watched it.
It just feels more cynical to me in The Boys than it does in Watchmen. Watchmen feels more realistic. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't like Watchmen. It's because it's too cynical.
Oh, interesting.
You know, when people like to put, you know, well, I'm talking about the book. I'm talking about just Watchmen as a property. Oh, you meant of The Boys. I'm sorry. Because you also
I was only Watchmen the show. I only watched like the first 15 minutes of The Boys. And then
okay.
Whoa, enough for me.
I'm caught up now, but I'm just saying that, like, a lot of people like just Watchmen as a thing. It's too cynical, and they like to you know, pit Alan Moore up against Grant Morrison and guys like that.
Yeah. All right, and then the other super chat that I missed was from John Ty. Can you judge art as objectively bad? Oh, a philosophical question for you.
Yeah, that's rough. It depends on probably what we're talking. Like, when you say art, because I never took art in college, like looking at paintings and sculpture and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it's possible to say that for sure a picture is bad. Is it the same thing as what I say a lot with narrative, where it depends to some degree on what is being attempted? And I think it's maybe a little bit harder to tell what the intent is just looking at a picture than it is looking at a narrative. So you can't hold any art, narrative, music, pictures, whatever we're talking about, paintings. You can't hold any art to exactly the same standard across the board, right? You can't say, well, this story is nonsensical and I don't know what's going on if the intent of that piece was to just make you feel a certain way and it's not actually telling a traditional narrative and it knows it. And you can tell looking at it that like it makes it clear to you in the piece, this is more of a like free-form, maybe a slice-of-life thing, maybe just like a literal moving picture as opposed to a story beginning, middle to end with an inciting incident and a character arc. So I guess my answer to that is yes, if I can be sure what the intent of a thing is, and if I absolutely have no idea whatsoever what the intent of a thing is, and it basically is left up to me entirely, maybe that also is objectively bad. That's tough.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same thing. I went to art school, and the thing all my teachers kept telling me is you can break the rules, but you have to learn the rules before you can break the rules.
Yep, and you've heard me say that 6,000 times with writing.
Yeah. So like Picasso, he could draw a woman's face with the nose in the right spot, but he was bored of that, so he just started doing
He made
other
up his
things,
own
putting
rules,
it
yeah.
in other places. Yeah, so like he was a fine artist before that, and then he just wanted to do his own thing. So like, but like you said, it's kind of hard. I mean, artists don't usually tell you their intentions, so that's where it gets hard to judge it.
And if they did, then you're not looking at the piece as just a piece. Like now it requires an outside voice to be able to read it, and that makes it an incomplete piece. That is a problem, no matter what it is. I think that is a problem. Yeah. This is really interesting. It's a tough call, case by case, like everything. Let's do some pre-written. People are complaining we're only talking about super chats, and there are a lot of super chats. But let's go ahead and do three pre-written. Knock them down. Just rapid fire.
Cap, DJ, have you seen the trailer for Ryan Reynolds' new movie next year, Free Guy?
No, I have not.
All right, moving on. Apparently, it's about a video game character that like is becoming sentient, and he's like
interesting.
I think so. I haven't seen it. I heard like a very brief thing about it on a video. But
I only go to superhero movies because that's all you guys will let me review. No, I'm just kidding.
But I did hear that it was cool to see him go against type, where he's not like the smooth, wisecracking, like pretty guy. He's kind of like awkward and like fumbling and stuff. So
all I meant in joking about that is that there's so much superhero stuff out, and as you can tell, I'm so behind on things that people get kind of impatient. And like, as always, I really appreciate that you guys care at all what I have to say about things. But folks will be like, "Cap, it's a superhero thing. Why haven't you gotten to it yet?" And I'm like, "Well, I thought maybe one time this month I would look at something that wasn't a superhero thing." And there's just so much of it. It's really hard. It takes up everything.
Oh, interesting. So they're explaining it. He is finding out he's in a video game. Blue Dragon 5 says he's a non-playable character that becomes playable or becomes a player, which is pretty cool.
Okay, that's fun. Yeah, I'll probably go see that just based on that premise. That's fun.
Yeah. Mark Guerrero says,
yeah.
Are your thoughts? What are your? I don't know
that
about
guy.
This.
Hi.
Have you heard about this? He says, what are your thoughts on Elizabeth Banks throwing Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman under the bus? What did she say?
I hadn't heard that. I did hear.
Did she say like, I did it better in Power Rangers or something?
No, not Power Rangers. She's been on the rampage about Charlie's Angels because it bombed, and she blamed the world not being ready for women in action movies. And a lot of people took her to task saying, okay, but there's all these women in action movies right now and they've been performing. The same kind of thing happened with Transformers. We're like, I don't think that's why that bombed. I think it had trailers that people weren't impressed with, and I think people don't have a lot of faith in or Transformers, Terminator. And I think a lot of people don't have faith in Terminator. And when the reviews weren't good the first week, word of mouth was bad, so people didn't go. I don't think that necessarily had anything to do with the fact that it was women in the lead roles. And specifically with Terminator, that was really silly because the protagonist of that was always a woman, and that was considered a pretty progressive thing in 1984. And when a thing like this bombs, sometimes fans and or the creators are looking for anything to blame it on, and so they're going to that. And that happened with Elizabeth Banks with Charlie's Angels, and so I assume that's her doubling down on that because again, people took her to task and they were like, okay, but Wonder Woman made a lot of money and Captain Marvel made a lot of money, and so I did not read that, but if she was probably looking for something to complain about with those to say this is why. Oh, you know what? Now that you mentioned, maybe I did hear something about this. Didn't she say something about how they were still fit in that like male mold or something, so like they don't count because like they started in a universe that was male driven, and it was, I think that's what she was talking about.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, I think she was just really upset that people didn't go see her movie, and I mean, sad for her if she thought she made a good movie and expected a lot of people to go see it. But I saw those trailers and it just didn't interest me. I don't know. I don't mean to be all political and stuff, but I don't think it's fair to expect people to go see something just because of, certain representation and stuff, where it's like, oh, well, there's women in this, so you have to go. Like, I don't know, if it doesn't look appealing, I'm not going to go. Like, It's not because the main characters are women. It's just because it doesn't look like it's the thing I would enjoy. I don't know. Like, at the point where entertainment is compulsory, that becomes really problematic, right? Because Like, it's my money, and I should decide how I get to spend it. And if I refuse to ever see anything because I'm a bigot, and you know, there's people that don't look and sound and act just like me in it, that's a problem, but I probably have way bigger problems that are going to impact society in other more you know, like awful ways. And I don't know, I just don't understand that. I don't think most people that didn't go see that, it was because of anything political. It just didn't look like a good movie. I don't know.
Well, and it's just a property that hasn't been around in like 10 years. I don't know if anyone's really itching for...
That is not name recognition that's going to get anybody in the theater. Like, because the previous incarnation of it also people didn't like. So maybe don't lean on brand recognition for something like Charlie's Angels. Make something similar but fresh and different.
Called it Charles Angels. That would have helped.
They should have called it Patrick Stewart's Angels. That's what it should have been called.
Vitale said, I want to call attention to this. He said, I feel sorry for Naomi Scott. Me too. She was great in Power Rangers. I didn't hate her. I actually liked her in Aladdin. And then she got that movie. Like, she can't catch a break.
So, yeah, she can't catch a break. So I didn't dislike her in Aladdin. I thought she was fine in that. I didn't like Aladdin. I thought she was fine with the material she was given. She unfortunately got the most unintentionally funny scene in the entire movie, where suddenly it turns into a music video and she's singing directly at the camera, and she's got this whole R&B number that does not fit in that movie at all. This power ballad thing. I don't know if you thought that was as funny as I did, but I almost fell out of my chair.
Based on your reaction right now, I don't think I did.
I almost fell out of my chair. Oh, man. Oh, John Ty, you didn't have to leave another super chat about that. He left another $5 super chat and said, when he was talking about art, I meant films. Can a film be objectively bad? I think the point I was making applies to that. Yeah, but because I just wanted to talk about art in general because that's the way that you phrased it, and say that it is easier for me to answer that question with film than it is anything else, and I have talked about that a whole lot. Where I think a movie can be objectively bad, but I don't think that means that you're not allowed to like it. I think these are different things, and I think that so this is not me saying that everybody is entitled to their own truth. I'm not saying that. Everybody's entitled to their own enjoyment of a thing, and everybody's entitled to their own standards of what makes them want to see a thing. So a film on the level of narrative can be objectively bad. It is if a story just absolutely does not make sense, or it's super tonally all over the place, if the movie is trying to make you think that it's one thing, but it's actually something else, or if it's emotionally manipulative, all of those things, a lot of that is pretty cut and dry, I think. Pretty clear to say, look, this does not make sense. We are, for the most part, I mean, sometimes there's a little bit of gray area here, but for the most part, I think when a piece says, I am this, I want you to be emotionally moved, but you didn't make a movie that is that, I think most of the time that's pretty clear cut. Different things move people differently, I get that, but I'm just saying that, if a thing is like a total absolute farce, and then suddenly at the end in the third act it's trying to make you care about its characters, there's no room for argument that it's not what it told you it was, and so it is not delivering its intent clearly, or it did and then it went back on it. But you might not be there for narrative. You might be there for other things. Now, I think that what movies primarily are about is telling a story. I think the story is the most important thing, but that doesn't mean that you have to go to movies for the same reasons that I do, even if that is the primary point of their being made. If we're talking about story, then that's the standard. But you might be there more for music, or you might be there more for production design. If you really love looking at how movies are made, and a movie is made wonderfully, but it had a really crappy script, you're going to you're going to subjectively enjoy that more than I did. And the movie on a narrative level might be objectively bad, but the whole movie, the other things about it might not be objectively bad, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it all depends on what your focus is. Like, a film major is obviously going to notice the production stuff a lot more, and I think that stuff is a little more. You can be more objective with that kind of stuff, because there is. Well, even with that, I mean, there's a right way to light a scene, but if you choose to light a scene differently, you can do that. So it's like, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's only wrong if you're pretending like you're following the rules. You're saying like clearly within the piece that that you're following the accepted rules of doing a thing, and then you didn't actually do that. You can also
break your own rules that you set up.
Yes, or you can just break those rules in ineffective ways. And a lot of filmmaking is experimental. And you could try a thing that you thought would work that just ultimately didn't. And yes, there's some gray area. There are things that will work for some people that won't for others. But as far as a whole, cohesive piece, you got to make it clear what you're trying to do. And then my job as a reviewer is to tell you whether or not I thought that what you did was effective. So yeah. Anyway,
that was great discussion. I'm gonna jump back to super chats because we have like 5.
Goodness.
We got a bunch. TH1, what will it take for us to get an amalgam comic movie?
Wow. Jesus Christ returning and being a Marvel DC fan. I think that's what it takes.
He's the only one who can join.
He's the only one that can make it happen, yeah. Disney buying Warner Brothers is the answer.
Oh, that's terrifying. I don't think they can at this point, right? There's no way. That's too big of a thing for them to own.
I don't think anything is impossible for Disney. Because
not like impossible for them, but I thought it was like against the law.
Yeah, and if you're as big as Disney, you're going to get to a point where the law doesn't matter. You're going to get to a point where it's going to be easier anyway to get the right people on board with the thing and to find loopholes and break the rules, man. That's the country we live in. I don't like talking about this stuff. I don't usually do this, but I think that's true. And because I think that there's a really good case to be made that the Fox buyout was antitrust, and if Disney had been anybody else, they probably would have lost that case. Is always the sense I got, and I mean, call me cynical, but the fact that an antitrust suit was even opened against them means it was probably antitrust, man, and they won it anyway. That's just my opinion, but that's what I think happened. So yeah, I think the answer is threefold. Okay, Jesus Christ has to come down and merge them, or Disney has to buy Warner Brothers, which effectively makes Disney Jesus Christ.
Dun, dun, dun. That perfectly goes along with something Mutali just asked. He asked if we had seen Mr. Robot. I don't think you have.
I haven't. I've heard wonderful things.
Yeah, it's great. I've seen the first 2 seasons. I haven't gone back. I haven't gotten a chance to go back to it, but the corporation in there is called E-Corp. Evil Corp, which is what a lot of people think Disney is, but there's an unreliable narrator in that show, so it's a lot of fun.
Rockman, hey, I want to answer a couple questions that just popped up. First of all, you're just a comment. Rockman says laws aren't as permanent as we might like. Exactly.
Ominous.
But he's not wrong. And Daniel Davis, hey Cap, how long do you watch a series before giving it up if you don't like it?
Oh, good question.
That's a great question. It just depends on what it is and how involved I was in it, right?
Well, we learned that my limit is 10 minutes because I got 10 minutes into The Boys, and probably not even that long. It's probably 5.
Well, I mean, I think that there's a couple of different situations where this happens, because when he said that, I was immediately thinking about shows that I liked initially and then they fell off. But you're right. Like, if I'm not liking a show from the beginning, it just depends on the level I'm not liking it and how much I dug the premise in the first place, or actors that are in it, things that I was there for in the first place. So if there's a show where like I was really stoked for it, I watched the first episode and it was a downer, it was a letdown for me, I may give it another episode or two if I was just so excited about it that I'm thinking, well, maybe it just didn't have, a great beginning, or it's not found its legs yet. like, I had that with Star Trek Discovery. It's Star Trek. Star Trek's one of my big things. So I didn't like that pilot, but it took me half a season before I considered stopping watching that. And the only reason I watched the rest of it is because people wanted me to talk about it, and it was kind of fun to bash it, to be honest with you. And I mean, I didn't go into that every week wanting to bash it. I kept wanting it to turn around, but when it was as bad as it was the one fun thing I had to do with it, which was go, what is this? It's the fun I was able to have with it. So like, I don't pull punches, but I also don't go to things going, this is gonna suck, let's rip this apart. But it was the only fun I could have at that point. Watching a Star Trek thing, it was really unfortunate. But as far as things that I'm loving and then they fall off, again, really totally depends on what it is. If I got invested almost in like a life-changing way, I will very often hang on for dear life. Even if it just stays really bad. And I did that with Smallville for the longest time, because that show was so important for me in high school. It was just really hard not to keep watching it. And at one point, I finally did drop off, but I always ended up coming back to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, this all depends on like how much time you have. Like when I was in college and I had no wife and no kids, like I watched everything. Like I watched 7 seasons of Smallville that I was not enjoying just to finish it. Like I just kept watching stuff. But now my time is like so limited. Like I have no time. Like I maybe can watch one episode a night, probably more like a couple of weeks. So it's like,
so it's hard to have that completion thing. Yeah,
I'm not going to waste my time on it. Like I have to be enjoying kind of every episode. Maybe give it one episode, but yeah, I don't really have time to do that anymore.
That's a really good question.
But yeah, it was good. From Quantum Carato, he gives us a $5 super chat, wondering,
yeah,
when Counting Crypto Freaks ends, will you be checking out the Smallville season 11 comics?
Yeah, and
when he's 75.
And I know everybody's saying like, well, hopefully he's not reviewing it from the grave, but I have plans for Crypto Freaks. I don't want to announce anything quite yet, except to say I have plans. And it is definitely going to return, because it has to. I can't deal with a thing being left on the floor like that. I started it back in 2011. I've only gotten through part of the 3rd season. It turned into a different show. I started doing commentaries just to get it out, because I didn't have time to write them all. Part of it was I didn't have time to write them all if I was also doing Rewind. If I quit a lot of other things I was doing, I could just get that out. But it was really difficult to do that and all the other stuff I was doing. But the bigger thing was, as a lot of you guys know, copyright issues. And I know I brought stills and even video back to Rewind, and I've been figuring out ways around the copyright thing and being able to post those. But Smallville specifically is a thing that kept getting flagged no matter what I did with it. And I even have a couple of episodes of that were more recent that just aren't even on YouTube anymore. So it had to be the commentary thing. And we lost some viewers over it, which is totally understandable. It's a longer commitment. You gotta watch the thing along with me. But I did also have... But the viewers were better than I expected, and I had a lot of people who, in the comments, who said they liked it even better than the other show because it was kind of fun to watch it along with me. And some people said, I felt like I had to watch an episode before I watched your show anyway, which, like, I give a synopsis and stuff, but I guess some people felt the need to watch it again, and so they were like, well, if I'm watching it again anyway, I might as well just put your track on. And some people, like my wife, don't find that show watchable without somebody talking about it the whole way through, so that for some people was the way to watch it. So anyway, I have plans, and that is going to happen. So yeah, but season 11 comics would also be in there. Yep.
Cool.
And obviously I would have to do those as basically comic vaults, because I'm not going to, have a dramatic reading of the comics and then talk over them. Although that would be amazing, but that's probably not what I'm doing. That's probably not what I'm doing.
You are Iron Fist. So Dave...
Well, no, I'm just imagining, like, getting, like, an improv troupe in a room, right? And having them all, like, read different characters in the comic.
Oh, it's another dramatic reading like the 89 comedy. That's great.
And then, right. But but trying to do it in the exact same format as I'm doing the show. So they're reading the comic while I'm doing a commentary over their reading the comic.
Hey. You can honestly say that's probably never been done. So
I was going to say, I think I just invented something. I think there's also a reason that's never been done. Guys, I got 13 minutes.
yeah, we got some super chats coming in. David Crabtree,
Thanks,
super
guys.
chat. By the way, big shout out for how great Brandon was on last week's premiere episode of Captain Logan After
hilarious.
Dark.
Yeah,
Hope to see him back more often. I didn't
yeah,
know he came.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he was there with me. People really enjoyed Brandon. That seems to be the perfect format for Brandon. He had a really great time. I'm gonna have Jeffrey Patron on the next show, and then and if Brandon's available, I'll have him there as well. But Jeffrey's gonna be my guest host on that show, and then I mean I'll happily have other folks on, and that's a show I think you can have 3, and it's not a big deal. But I am talking to Brandon about being the regular co-host on that show because he was I don't know, our rhythm was really good on that, and it was a lot of fun, and he's really good for After Dark because he's willing to talk about some crazy stuff. And if you're not a patron and you want to go watch that show or you're curious about that show, just know that one of the odd things that will happen when you watch that is you will see toward the end Brandon talk about how he's not uncomfortable in a room full of naked people. So that that happens. Anyway, good. And that wasn't even in the stuff that makes me uncomfortable segment.
Hey, and if you ever need a moderator for that show, I'm basically doing the show tonight. That's kind of what we're doing anyway. So I am down. John Ty. Whoa.
Well, obviously, I'd love to have you there too, man. Yep.
John Ty gives us 2 super chats. First one, we already talked about that one. You're right. When I was talking about art. The second one, is it hard to separate the art and the artist? Oh, this.
Well,
he's given us.
And I've talked about this before. Yeah. Wow. Look, I just want to talk about things like my hair. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Yes, it is difficult. Do I want to do it? Yes, as much as humanly possible. So, couple big things with this. First of all, if you don't separate the art from the artist, then research is required to appreciate almost any piece. And I fundamentally disagree with that. I think art should stand on its own. I think it's sticky because also not all art is made for all people, right? So sometimes there may be a prerequisite to looking at a thing. And that is different than having to research the person that made it and find out what his viewpoints are and find out what he was meaning to do before he made a thing, like why he made it. The intent should, as much as possible, as I said earlier, be embedded in the piece, or it should be ambiguous in a good way. And I can't talk about that without looking at specific pieces. But anyway, so it is difficult to separate the art from the artist because if you know anything about the person that made a thing, it is going to cloud your judgment, and it's going to affect, or it's going to in some way affect your read on it, and sometimes even your enjoyment of it. And so, for instance, no way to talk about this without bringing this up. I don't think, or something like this, because like they're separating the art from the artist just in the sense of, you know, I don't want that guy, that person's, you know, voice in the back of my head while I'm watching a thing. I want it to just be me in the piece. But then there's also that big question, especially these days, of if somebody was an absolute horrible human being, is it still okay to enjoy their work? And we have to talk about that now with the whole art and artist thing. And so, like, is it okay to go back to Bill Cosby stand-up specials now? Can you separate the art and the artist with things like that? And that is case by case to me. I don't think there is anything ethically wrong with enjoying, like, I think ethically you should be able to separate that. I don't think it makes me complicit in the horrible things that guy did, or that I'm taking up for that or saying it's okay if I go back and enjoy his work. Can I actually enjoy his work is a totally different question, because there are too many things in Cosby's work that get really uncomfortable, where you can see like nuanced, or maybe even not so nuanced, oh yeah, this is the guy who did that, and he gets too close to home in places. And then there's other stuff where you would have never known that, you know, a person did like these really horrendous things if you didn't go do a bunch of research. And we know about all kinds of really awful people that now that it was years and years before we found out about it? Is it wrong to go back and look at their stuff now? So yeah, I think, me personally, I want to separate the art from the artist as much as possible. Some of them I can do that with very easily, and some of them I can't.
Yeah, I think this is the ultimate it depends question.
It is.
Because not only is it, if you don't know about it, then yes, it's not that hard to, but I think even breaking down it further, just of the stuff that you do know about, it depends on when you learned about it. Yep. I think it's much easier if you learned about it after you've already seen it. It's like after you've seen it that first time, like obviously if you know about it going into the first time, it's going to be all you're thinking about. But if you've seen something already and then you learn about it, I think it's a lot easier to go back to it. Like you and I both have this, Saving Mr. Banks. I've heard people complain about it all the time, but I still enjoyed it.
Me too.
But I saw it first before I knew any of that stuff.
Yep, same here. And I just like that probably would have been really hard for me to sit through. Yeah.
Yeah. So, direct all your hate at me and Cap for liking that movie. This is my favorite super chat we've ever gotten. It just says, "Teen Wolf?" Question mark. Random reviewer.
I
don't know what he means by that.
He wants to know why I'm not reviewing Teen Wolf still. I'm sure this still comes up every now and again.
You guys have a shorthand that you understand at this point.
I guess, yeah. I reviewed the first season of that show. I watched part of the second season. I didn't care for it. I didn't want to keep talking about it. And that is the end of that story.
All right, there you go. You have a question, and you have your answer. And that is the last super chat. So what do you want to do? You want to close off on one or two more?
Yeah, sure. I've got 7 minutes left by my clock, so we'll do as many pre-written questions as I can do in 7 minutes. So I'm going to assume 1 or 2.
All right, 1 or 2. I've got 2 right here. Fun ones. Let's do some fun ones about the channel. Let's be self-indulgent. Anime
sure.
2019 says, should there be a Geekvolution action figures? And and I guess which ones should they make? He says his option is they could make a DJ toy that can weld accessories. That would be great. That's a pretty hardcore toy that I don't know would get past the censors. But yeah, what would we do? What would you do? What would be what action would you have?
I would want Spawn Your Cap. I would want a figure that was me in the Spawn suit, but like you could take the head off.
Oh, put the new head on you.
Yeah, or maybe do like a Freakadoo figure. Because I think that could be really funny with just the big wild white hair and I mean there's a lot of fun variants you could do just with different stuff I do. I'm sure some of the Smallville fans on the channel wouldn't mind a Dr. Elias Small figure with like crazy hair that was like when I did the Smallville infomercial for the few of you guys that remember that. Even more than that, I think it would be fun to see a Coke Redeemer figure with Vince.
Oh, cool. So yeah, a lot of Spawn Your stuff. I'd like to see a Vince with a lot of different hats. A lot of different hat accessories. And you pull the string and he says, "I'm Vince."
You have me like, "And I'm Vince." So you have a figure so you could say your name, and then you could have it say, "And I'm Vince." So you can be like, "I'm DJ, and I'm Vince." And then you can get an Eric that just says, "And I'm Eric." Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the gimmick for the whole line. We just all say, "And I'm Dan, and I'm DJ."
But mine has like a 3-minute preamble.
Yeah, you got to. They come with a 2-pack so that you can introduce the other one.
Just keeps talking and talking and talking.
Oh man, wow! I am so glad that this super chat just came in and we can talk about this instead, because I almost read Mutale's question that said, "Cap and DJ, how would you feel about creepy erotic fanfic written about you guys?" So we're not going to talk about that.
No, we're not. This is not an After Dark. Somebody a minute ago was like, "Wow, this is turning into an After Dark with the things that are being discussed." Well, it was the super chats. But you're right. You're right. That did start to get a little bit After Darky. But I mean, I would have gotten into probably more detail and stuff if it wasn't After Dark. But yeah.
For more of that, tune in next week, guys. So Mr. Weeping Dalek gives us a $2.99 super chat. He says,
"Yeah,
and this is big. Or I mean, it's not big because we all knew it was happening anyway, but it's official now. Well, thoughts on Marvel TV completely shutting down?"
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is like that wasn't a surprise to anybody.
Yeah.
Some of the projects that they're dropping, I think, some folks might have hoped were going to move over somewhere else. It was kind of weird. that, well, I say we knew this was coming. It's kind of weird, some of the things that they were greenlighting when we knew Disney Plus was coming, and I kept assuming that a lot of that stuff was going to shut down, but like up until this, that Hellstrom show on Hulu was still supposed to happen, and I'll be really surprised if that still goes through, or maybe they've already said it's not. I can't remember. I only looked at this briefly. I haven't delved real deep into this, but it was supposed to be that Ghost Rider show, and then that got dropped, but for whatever reason, the Hellstrom show is still being made, which I thought was really curious. And so they've said, anyway, they've said that they're not further developing any shows, but the shows that they're still making right now, they're not shutting production down on, so they're just going to finish just like the Netflix shows did. And some of those shows, I don't think anybody was really watching anyway. Like, I don't think Cloak and Dagger had a big audience. I've never heard one other person ever say one word about Cloak and Dagger. I have no idea what anybody thinks of that, because I think 5 people watched that show. That's what I think. And I don't think any of them were the intended audience. I don't think of any of those 5 people were they teenage girls. I really don't. I don't think anyone that Freeform was pushing that toward was actually watching them. I think it was 5 comic fans that for a second were curious because they liked Cloak and Dagger in the 80s, and then they were like, oh, this is made for teenage girls, and then teenage girls didn't watch it either. That's what I think happened.
Yeah.
Oh, Mutali says Hellstrom is still going through. Well, that's interesting. Just on Disney Plus, that would happen.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. What's up?
No. Nothing to add.
I can tell if you froze. I wasn't sure.
Didn't even know if Hellstrom was a thing. I didn't hear about that.
All right, let's do one more.
All right, let's call it. This is the last question. No pressure.
Oh, and Matali says Hellstrom will still be on Hulu. I guess that's because it was already being developed. I guess that's why. So will it only get 1 season? Is that the assumption? Well, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because man, if that wasn't further along, I would have been really surprised if they put that on Disney Plus. But anyway,
Nicholas Robinson has been asking this a lot. He just wants to know what's going on with Babylon 5. He said Babylon 5 question mark.
Well, he was asking earlier if I'd ever seen Babylon 5. I've actually been just recently working my way through that show. There are plans to do a series on Babylon 5 on the channel. I'm not going to say anything else about that right now, but there is hopefully going to be a thing on that down the road for the 9 people that care. 4 more people than were watching Cloak and Dagger will probably be interested in Babylon 5 discussion show. But so Eric and I were doing a thing on Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine for a long time. Obviously, I would have loved to have continued that show, but it just wasn't in the cards and there wasn't enough interest in it. But I do want to talk about Babylon 5 by itself. I have some other folks that are going to come in and talk about that with me if things go according to plan. I can't say anything else right now. And so yeah, I was binging it really hard when I was sick. I've watched through through middle of season 4, so I'm getting pretty close to the end, and hopefully that happens next year. But I'm loving it, and it is fascinating, and it's one of the greatest shows on TV that most people haven't seen. And if you are into science fiction at all, and if you've ever read anything by JMS and liked it, J. Michael Straczynski, you absolutely owe it to yourself to watch that show. And I don't want to give anything away about it at all if you've never looked at it, but it is on. And just know that like the special effects are not great, particularly outside the station, because they're done with early computer graphics. So you have to kind of live with that and get past it, but you get used to it, you adjust to it. But it's on Amazon Prime right now if you have Amazon Prime, so it is watchable for free. But yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. I think it's one of the greatest shows ever made. So anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed tonight's special longer edition, just like Star Trek the Motion Picture on VHS, of the Captain Logan show, whatever the name of it. I'm looking at the name of the show. And next week, Captain Logan After Dark will return as the after show for the Captain Logan show. So never fear, you'll get another one of these, but it won't be 2 hours long because I'm also going to do another hour after that. on Patreon. I want to say welcome and thank you to all of our new patrons. We got some new patrons in this week. I assume to watch the Captain Logan or the Captain Logan After Dark, and I hope you're enjoying that. My name's in everything now. It makes me feel self-conscious. But anyway, but I want to. Yeah, I know it's on me. I want to welcome all of our new patrons and say thanks a bunch for being with us, and I'm going to try to deliver as much cool content for you as we can. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to get some more requests out very soon, and but I'm working on the writing workshop, so I'm doing one of those tomorrow night, and then it's going to be requests for the next several days. You guys are all wonderful. I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for all the super chats tonight. That was great. I could not have expected that. You guys are wonderful, and thanks for keeping us going for another hour, because it was a lot of fun and we really enjoyed it. But I have to hurry up and go, or DJ is going to quit. So in the meantime, thanks so much for watching. I was Captain Logan, and this is DJ Martinez.
I'm the welder, reminding you to support your local hardware store.
Later, folks. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I think I just broke my phone.